Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of The Unbelievers. I'm Cams, your host. I'm an unbeliever, and I'm here with another unbeliever called Barge.
Hello.
How are you?
Good this evening.
Excellent.
Ready to rock and roll with another couple of chapters of this adventure.
Yeah. Is that a paperback copy I see on our Zoom call?
It's a paperback copy indeed, yeah. The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever. The trilogy in one volume.
Oh, for those that don't know, which is all of you, apart from me and Barge, I got him a copy of the trilogy because he had it in audiobook only. So he now has a paperback copy that I got for £3. It might even have been less than that on a used bookstore. Was it Abe Books, I think? Or World of Books, I can't remember which one. Absolute bargain. So if any of you are looking to read along with us, take a look for a used copy online. You'll find one, I'm sure, for not too much money. And then you can follow along with us.
It's good. I can kind of scribble in it, and I don't need to keep any separate piece of paper for any thoughts I might need to jot down.
Yep. I've been annotating my copy as well, which I've had probably 20 years or more. It's all faded from the sun. On the spine, the orange colour has faded. Anyway, let's get to the story. So we're covering chapters 4 and 5 today. Kevin's Watch and Mithil Stonedown. So how did you get on, Barge?
I found reality is being kind of transformed, and so I really wondered what was going on, a little bit like TC himself.
Yeah.
And I mean, when he gets to a sense of where he is, where he wakes up, I mean, again, I had like this dread building up in me because, I've got this thing about heights too. Oh. And I was thinking, like, what a situation to wake up in. But, I mean, there's the sense of continuity, and yet these realities kind of shifting and changing. So, interesting developments.
Yeah, so we left him at the end of chapter 3 after a big conversation with Lord Fowl, which will have taken place in Kevin's Watch, but it was foggy, and I guess Thomas Covenant couldn't see that he was up on a rock promontory.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, in that situation, I guess all his attention was focused on Lord Fowl and what's his face who had appeared?
Drool.
Drool, yeah. And I don't even know that it's clear that it was the same place. There's nothing that I've read that says that, and then he's always referring back to the accident, and he should be hit, and where is he, and all that, and
yeah, he's possibly still in Fowl's creche or Cariel Threndor, which is where he appears when Drool summons him with the staff. So yeah, maybe he's not in Kevin's Watch then during that conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I'm coming as a total blank sheet, so I don't know anything of what happens ahead. So, I've only got as far as chapter 5. So that's what I think.
No, it sounds like you're right. It says, then another voice entered the cavern. This is in chapter 3. Powerful enough to fill the air without effort and somehow deadly. So they're in the cavern. Yeah, they're not in Kevin's Watch. So when Fowl finishes his conversation by saying, think on that and be dismayed, It says, dismayed, hung, prolonged in the air. There's a sound which rushes over him. He places his knees with his head braced between his arms and his mind blank with panic. He remained rigid there until the grinding was gone, and then a low hum of wind rose through the new silence. He opened his eyes fearfully and saw sunlight on the rock before his face. So yeah, he's just been transported then to Kevin's watch. We know not how.
Right, and again, there's doubt about whether he has been transported again, because what does Lena, the girl, say? How did she know to come to him? She saw him from the hill.
Yeah.
She saw a dark cloud on Kevin's watch.
Yeah.
And she saw that he was engaged in some kind of struggle or battle.
Yeah.
So
perhaps he was on Kevin's watch, but it appeared different.
Who knows? There seems to be plenty of mystical kind of stuff going on, psychic stuff going on. Who knows whether the girl had some kind of sight as well. Kevin's watch seems to be a very important place. And so who knows whether Lord Fowl's power would allow him there or not, and what his history with Kevin is. So at this stage of not knowing anything, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So he comes to flat on his back with the sun's warmth on his fog-chilled bones.
Right, and that's where, again, you realise, like, okay, but you're on this kind of slab and you're like 4,000 feet above.
Is that what it says? It says 4,000 feet.
It says 4,000 feet above a certain level. I don't know if he had to climb down 4,000 feet. Because, right. I was calculating that's like over a kilometre. And, so I don't know. I think I might have missed a bit where they gave a measurement for the steps themselves, but yeah. But then he sees the cliff and he thinks it's just across, and then he sees it's at least a stone's throw away, so he realises there's that thing. And interestingly enough, actually, I once had a dream where I found myself on top of something like that, except it didn't have sides and it could barely even contain me. It was like a pole on which was a wheel, and I was on top of the wheel. And I had to keep my balance. It just reminded me of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're a vertigo sufferer as well?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have attempted some of the stuff you attempted and that you showed me. And I've been in a couple of precarious situations, and I have this fascination, but I'm reluctant to put myself in a situation where, I'm confronted by, having to climb up or down anything steep. Yeah. I'll go up the Eiffel Tower, that's fine. But, so he's over there, and then he's wondering what's going on, and then Lena appears, right?
Yeah, so he mentions the police car again. He remembered that there had been several people nearby during his accident in the street. They were strangely silent. The town itself seemed hushed. The police car must have injured him worse than he realised. So, does he think he's dead?
He deals with exactly that issue a little bit later on, where he talks about he comes to some kind of acceptance that, all right, so I'm in some kind of a coma or, unconscious, and I'm having this dream.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So he just accepts it and decides to go along with it.
He struggles a bit, but he does come to that kind of I think Lena kind of softens the blow, because she really helps him. You know, when he's freaking out at the vertigo and things like that, she really calms him down.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that.
And she's surprised when he makes it clear that he's no idea where Kevin's watch is, and she explains to him what Kevin's watch is, and she says, "You mean you haven't heard of it?"
Yeah, right. So maybe we should talk about when they first meet, and it seemed like Lena recognized him, right?
Yeah. When she looks at his hand.
When she looks at his hand.
Yeah.
And she talks about Brian
Beric.
Halfhand. Beric Halfhand.
Yeah.
And that's actually a kind of bit of a shocker for TC himself, because he realizes then that Lord Fowl and this place have a continuity.
Yes.
So that's why he says the nightmare continues. It's not a separate place. It's not.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the first of those kind of definite connections that he makes.
Yeah, so I was surprised, having dealt with that situation where Lord Fowl was telling him what was going on, that he actually remembered a detail like that, but it does say that at first he could not remember where he had heard that name before. And then it came back to him in a cold panic. He realised that the nightmare was not over, that this girl and Lord Fowl the Despiser were both part of the same experience.
However, she is, she's very nice-natured, very open, and she expresses a kind of respect and reverence for him. He finds that uncomfortable because he says, people haven't been nice to me for a long time and things. A bit like what he said to the beggar. But, it's interesting that she kind of greets him as if he's high up. So she recognizes something in him like a lord, or again, as dimensions and things like different worlds go, remember, Lord Bane could not do anything to him because of his wild, the wild power?
Magic. The wild
magic, right? Yeah. So, I don't know. If it's magic, I guess it's play here too.
So Lena must know who Beric Halfhand was in order for her to be reverent towards him.
Well, I have read the title of the next chapter, and it is the legend of Beric Halfhand. So, yeah.
He is mentioned. Lord Fowl does mention him, and where's the bit? I haven't underlined it, have I? Yes, I have. He's telling the story of Kevin Landwaster. Kevin, who was the one who started the ritual of desecration, which Lord Fowl tricked him into doing, thereby destroying the world. Yeah, it mentions it. Right. So it says, the mighty High Lord Kevin, son of Lorik, and great-grandson of Beric, Lord Fatherer, whom I hate. This is Lord Fowl talking. So there's a family tree here.
Right, so Beric, did he say Beric Lord Fatherer?
Yeah, and it mentions that again in this Kevin's Watch chapter, yeah.
In chapter 5, yeah.
So Beric is the first of the High Lords of old, from whom Lord Kevin is descended. High Lord Kevin, who perpetrated the ritual of desecration, or what's the other word they call? Desolation. They call it a desolation. So all that's explained. It's like a big info dump at the end of chapter 3 by Lord Fowl, when he explains so much in like 2 pages. It's like, steady on, Lord Fowl. I can't take this all in.
Right. I mean, he does a lot of name dropping.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And no one seems to be happy to have only one name. Or at least Lord Fowl, anyway. He's got 6 or 7 names.
I see.
As do the places. But yeah, it talks about here, this is back to chapter 3, where Lord Fowl says, "Together we uttered the ritual of desecration. Ah, the fool. He was already enslaved to me and knew it not. Proud of his lore, he did not know that the very law which he served preserved me through that cataclysm, though all but a few of his own people and works were stricken into death."
Yes, that struck me really kind of, but I didn't know how to pass it in any way, so
no, of course
but,
not.
I mean, it's
No. It's too much, too soon. But that's why it warrants multiple reads, actually, because this is important information. And the fact that he's recognised as Berek half-hand, by virtue of the fact that he's lost 2 fingers on his right hand. So that's why Lena makes that connection, which must mean she's aware of who Berek was and the history of the land.
Yeah.
Maybe most people are, I don't know, it's not made clear, but...
She seems to know a lot of things, that her mother and her aunt kind of teach her. I mean, that's what she's doing. She's out collecting stones.
Well, her mother, she says that her mother, Ati Aaron, is the only person in the village, or the Mithil Stonedown, who's ever studied at the Lowers Rat, which is the school where lore is taught.
Yeah.
Presumably at Revelstone, where the Lords are, which is where Covenant's been sent to by Lord Fowl with his message.
You're right, and he asks to be taken there.
Right.
He asks Lena to take him there, and I'm sure that happens while they're still on top of Kevin's watch, because he gives her his full name. He kind of never says, "No, I'm not a lord." He never says that.
Oh, does he not?
No. But he says, "No, I'm not Derek Halfhand."
Yeah.
Oh, that's not my name. Something. But, yeah. I don't think he does that deliberately, but, I mean, the way it's presented is that he then just moves on to something else, so he's really too tired to explain, kind of thing.
Yeah, got you.
So, and, in fact, even something... Maybe it was asking to be taken to the House of Lords, or that kind of confirms it for Lena. If she wants to ask him why, but doesn't.
Yeah. So here we are, page 47 in my book, skipping transitions so that he would not have to ask or answer certain questions. He said, "I've got to go to the Council of Lords." He saw in her face that she wanted to ask him why, but she seemed to feel that it was not her place to question his purpose. So then she says to him that she'll take him to the Stonedown, which then leads to the big, mighty climb down the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, now that, and to actually, he tries to give her a sense when he's telling her, "No, I'm going to go first." He tries to give her a sense of what it might be like for a leper to attempt this, when you can't feel your toes, you can't feel your hands, and you've got like 2 fingers missing for the grip and things. I mean, what a nightmare.
Yeah, and of course she's got no idea what leprosy is, which surprises him.
Yeah.
As much as she's surprised by the fact he'd has never heard of Kevin's watch. And she says, is it catching? He said, "I don't know." You mean you've never heard of leprosy?
But, I mean, it doesn't faze her whatsoever. I mean, she wonders, and it's not even clear that she's afraid and not just curious. Is it catching? Will I get sick?
So she's described as looking around the age of 16, and it describes the clothing that she's wearing, the white cord around her blue dress, and then they start the descent, which is described incredibly well.
It really is. I mean, and then, when he's describing how tired Cece's getting, then Lena's voice comes down halfway. You get a real sense.
Yeah, only 50 steps remain. I know that feeling when there's steps up. Do you remember where we went up Glen Rosa?
Yeah.
If you cut off to the left at the burn, up to the saddle between Keirvor and the other mountains, there's a steps have been cut into the side of the hill where it gets really steep. And every time I've gone up those steps, this is what I always imagine going up to Kevin's Watch.
Yeah, right.
It's just these zigzagging steps that are crazy steep. So maybe take you up there someday if you're brave enough.
I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see, yeah.
And that's one of the things, if I think back to even my army days when I was 16, 17, going on exercise in the Yorkshire moors, in the howling wind and the pelting rain and carrying big heavy rucksacks and eating ration packs, to make that endurable, I would always imagine fantasy books, that I was on some kind of quest. So even in those early days I was using fantasy as a way of dealing with life.
And the irony, I don't know if it is irony, is that then, you fell. And then you fell, 40 feet?
Aye. Not quite the height of Kevin's Watch, but high enough to put a dent in me.
Well, I guess we wouldn't have met at uni had that not happened. You'd have been some kind of dodgy spy for GCHQ, and and what would be happening now with the position on Russia? Goodness, you might have. Yeah, you might have been posted somewhere in Odessa. Oh my goodness. It doesn't bear thinking about, right?
I'm much happier at home reading Thomas Covenant.
So right.
So do we get to the bottom of the climb at the end of chapter 4? And he looks up and he sees the blue sky, the long black finger of Kevin's Watch pointing at the noon sun, the towering slope of the mountain, and Lena bending over him so low that her hair almost brushed his face.
Relief.
Yeah, it's palpable.
In fact, that's the very first line of the next chapter.
Aye.
Covenant felt strangely purged.
Yeah.
But he had passed through an ordeal and survived a ritual trial by vertigo. My goodness.
So now he's having a look. He's doing his VSE, his visual surveillance of extremities. And he's seeing some cuts and abrasions on his palms, bruises on his shins. And he's a bit concerned because this is life-threatening.
And how to make Lena understand that he needs to wash his hands.
So she brings him some mud to wash his hands, and he's like, no, I need clean water, I don't need mud.
Yeah, well, she takes him to this place, this really beautiful place. And she says to him, what could heal you more than this? Meaning being here. And then he washes himself and she's gone away, and then she comes back with this mud, and he almost freaks out because he's seen bits of grit and grime in the cuts, and he says, why are you giving me more mud? You're gonna cripple me.
So the mud is called hurtloam, which Lena had gone off to find, and she brings it back, and he's not up for it, but she persuades him.
She just dumps it on him.
She dumps it on his shins to start with, where his bruises are.
Yeah.
And he starts to feel a tingling sense
almost immediately he sees, and he's kind of for it. He even, it's the experience of it that completely changes his position on it.
Yeah. So it wasn't about persuasion, it was just dumped on him, as you say. Almost immediate relief.
This is Heartloom, repeatedly, and it is for healing, yeah.
Yeah. It's got flecks of gold in it.
You get the feeling that Thomas Covenant doesn't believe that he can be healed, at this point anyway. He just doesn't believe it, because everything, even there was some mention by Lena when they were up on Kevin's watch about making it better or something, and he just snaps and says no.
Well, that's what he's been taught when he was in the sanitarium.
Right, and I mean, that's at this point pretty much an absolute for him, which makes the next little bit of experience so amazing. Because, I mean, this spreads, he feels pleasure, and then he discovers that his hands, the cuts are gone, and the bruise is almost healed at that final stage.
Yeah.
And what's more, the nerves, it's like they're kind of penetrating further up than where his feeling is, as if they're trying to regain that, and so it's, it must, I mean, fantastic.
Yeah.
To feel that after having gone through however long it was, and I mean, it's not clear what the time span was, but it was well over a year, I think, between discovering that he had leprosy, and then he was 6 months in the leprosarium, and then it was at least 6 months where he was back and dealing with his anger in the farm. Maybe it was longer, maybe it was a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when his bill came the next spring that he wanted to tackle it and all that. So, and then exactly that whole thing that, well, it's for life and I have to be vigilant, and he's done all that. And so after all that, to find that, that's why he's so kind of like, just what's happening.
And his response is hellfire, and bloody damnation. After a long silence, he whispered, "That's not possible."
And then she kind of takes the piss.
She does a bit. Yeah. What's so funny?
That's a nice sweet passage.
Trying to imitate his tone, she said, "I need more soap. I need not more dirt." That is a nice moment. I mean, that's, I suppose, all 16-year-olds are different. You can't really say that's how a 16-year-old would respond.
But it's in a way the archetype of that kind of personality, right? I mean, there's something angelic about her that he presents as well. He talks about wings at least twice.
Right. Well spotted.
I think it's twice. At least once, and I think twice. But once, and it's in connection with anger or something. But it's something behind her with wings.
So she explains a bit about her family, that her father is Trell, the Gravelingas of the Radhamel. So we're getting a lot of strange vocabulary here. His work is with the Firestones. So she's from, I suppose, a noble family in her local village. At least there's some hierarchy there, that her mother's the only one who studied at the Lowers Rat.
Right.
Her father is the Gravelingas, whatever that might be. But it sounds like it's important. So she's got some stature and some knowledge, and she explains about the stone lore that she herself was practicing when she's going out to practice Surupamerl, which is a kind of sculpture, it sounds like. And she describes about seeing shapes in the stones and then looking for what the stones reveal to her.
Yeah, I really like that approach to working with stone, because then it's the initiative for form comes from the material itself. So the stone suggested. So you're not kind of forcing it into a shape.
Yeah, so perhaps she's got such confidence because of her background in the village, so she doesn't feel threatened by this stranger.
Well, I mean, so it seems to be quite an idyllic place. So, I mean, if you can imagine a 16-year-old grow up without the intensity of, say, modern life in the 21st century for a young girl, right?
Yeah.
Without that, right? Without any of any associated traumas or, I don't know, emotional manipulation as a kid by parents and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's very wholesome.
Right. I mean, in that sense, they're kind of, I don't know, archetypal.
Yeah, it's almost like if you raise your hand to a dog that's never been struck, it's not going to move its head away in fear.
Exactly. If you raise a stick to a dog that's never been struck, they like Flame, she'll wanna chase it.
Yeah. So there's that kind of innocence and purity and wholesomeness.
Right. And I guess that breeds confidence.
Yeah, it must do.
I mean, just open. Why fear strangers when no stranger has harmed you?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Exactly, yeah. So she's talking of the Radhamerl. So this must be some kind of stone lore that her family's involved in. That's how she knows of the Hurtloam with its healing properties.
Amazing thing, this Hurtloam.
Absolutely, yeah. And then she explains to TC that there is power in the earth, power and life. You must know this. This is it was written in 1977, so I'm not sure what was going on with news of climate change and all that back then, but the idea of Mother Earth as being the source of power and life, it stood out to me, that section.
That's quite pagan in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially that. I mean, I think the cult of Gaia is a more modern version of it, like, I don't know, last century or two. But yeah, drawing, energy and inspiration from the planet around. I mean, fundamentally, that's what most native peoples kind of do, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
Australia, Native Americans.
And then we get some Aliantha, the treasure berries, which lore says that you can travel the length and breadth of the land and survive on nothing but treasure berries, and then return home stronger and better fed than before.
Yeah, I mean, that's another of those kind of miracles, or those, because he wonders about the mud, and he says, are there other things like that? And she says, yeah, and here's another one.
Aye. So he wolfs them down, and then this moment stood out to me here when he's eaten them too fast, and she says he should eat them more slowly. And he responds almost with aggression. He says he snatched his arm away as if he meant to strike her.
Yeah.
Then abruptly caught himself. What is this? What's happening? So he's responding to this strange situation with anger, almost with violence.
Well, there's the trigger, and anger is still awake within him.
Yeah.
I mean, he he experienced so much anger, so much rage, and had to deal with it. But yeah, I guess that's clearly more.
Yeah. But I mean, it did describe in the early chapters that he uses his anger as a survival tool. And it's been however long it was before this transformation took place that it's ingrained in him. It's his modus operandi.
It could be survival here because of the pangs of hunger, which he still kind of continued to feel. It could also be, could it not, that he had such intense pleasure from these berries that being told that he couldn't get more of that was what triggered it.
Oh.
Because there is so little pleasure in his life.
Yes, and when he gets a little taste of pleasure, he wants to guzzle it down.
I mean, who knows? It's a kind of instinctive thing that happens, and he catches himself and says,
he does.
hang on.
Yeah, he does.
But, I mean, who knows? I mean, multiple triggers, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was triggered.
And then he's overcome with drowsiness.
This is also important.
To Lena's surprise. It's normally when one is gravely ill that it would have such an effect. So she's surprised that it has this effect on him, but that's because she doesn't know of his illness.
But it's not just that. Right, okay, yeah, there is that. Right.
Yes, do you have hurts that you did not show me?
Hurts that you did not show me. I also read that to mean invisible ones, emotional ones.
Ah. Yeah,
right.
We don't know if Hurtloam would
heal mental issues, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? That'll be an interesting. I mean, but that's what it kind of made me think that maybe Hurtloam does. Yeah. But then it's not clear that it does.
No.
Right.
So he sleeps, he awakes. First thing that he became conscious of was Lena's firm thighs pillowing his head.
Yeah.
It's a nice scene, actually.
Well, and she's singing kind of a funny song rather naively.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't know how long he's been out, but it's still daylight, so presumably a few hours at the most. And she's been looking after him and just singing to him and spending time keeping him comfortable.
Right. And so she sings and he's enjoying it and, really comfortable. And then she begins to sing again.
Mm.
And then he has another little moment because of the tune that she's singing, which sounds like Golden Boy. And Golden Boy was the tune that was playing when he was walking to the bank.
Yeah, that's chapter 1. That's the title of chapter 1, Golden Boy.
Right. And so he becomes immediately suspicious, like, I mean, kind of fair enough, like, what's the connection? Like, WTF in capitals, like. And so this is the only kind of question mark I had over Lena, right? Where she says she just made it up. I mean, okay, that goes in line with the innocence, and there's no reason to doubt her, right? But I mean, it's a very interesting connection, and he then just brushes it off in a sense, and he also says something quite revealing, that I didn't know it was this bad, in response to her saying, "You are strange, Thomas Covenant." Yeah. But he's kind of becoming infatuated, I think.
Yeah, well, see, I've underlined the sentence that immediately follows it was, I didn't know it was this bad. For a moment they stood gazing into each other's eyes, and then she surprised him by blushing and dropping her hands. So is there some kind of romantic connection, at least in her eyes?
Well, I don't know about her, because she still has that awe and all that, and yeah, but I mean, from TC side, there's, I guess, because, I mean, she's being nice to him, she's kind of, and whatever, but he seems to be falling in love.
Yeah, there's some...
Or at least, infatuated anyway. A growing infatuation. There are few things, it's just, few things.
Such as?
Right. She was lithe and light and graceful as she ran, and Covenant watched her, musing on the strange new feelings that moved in him.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, they also talk about him dealing with these unexpected feelings, right?
Yeah.
He had an unexpected sense that this land might offer him some spell with which he could conjure away his impotence.
Yes.
You see, there's impotence, of course, in the more general sense, but also the sexual impotence.
Yeah. No, leprosy was an incurable disease, and if he did not die from his accident, he would have to live with that fact. So he's reasserting his belief that he needs to survive, he needs to not lose sight of the fact that he's a leper. But then we go on, and nearing Lena, he seemed to see parts of her for the first time. And then we get a description of her. It's quite revealing. Yeah.
And then he's noticing her shape, her waist, her breasts,
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's also, the place is growing on him. He talks about the coherence of the land, it being manageable. And also his senses are sharpening, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, these are, whatever other states, or whatever other substances can get you into those kind of states, being in love also can.
Absolutely. And he's rested. He's had some satiating food, and he's had some medicament of whatever type it is.
Right. So he's feeling good about himself, and it's not even maybe so much being in love, but actually just experiencing, I don't know, just, that whole kind of universal vibe, man. and being just lifted by it. And also, Lena's company being an integral part of that. And his, So, it's not clear. But there seems to be, some kind of sense of infatuation.
Yeah. And now we're on the journey. We've started moving towards Mithil Stonedown. So she shows him it from the side of the river. And then she says that we'll reach there after sundown. And they head off. And there's a beautiful bit of written here, lovely imagery next to the paragraph that begins with the Mithil was narrow and brisk. And it describes the river, which I found to be quite beautiful imagery.
Yeah, he's got away with words. Certainly enjoyed how he puts them together.
So he's under the spell of the river. He's becoming slowly more conscious of the reassuring solidity of the land. It was not an intangible dreamscape. It was concrete, susceptible to ascertainment. This was an illusion, of course, a trick of his racked and smitten mind, but it was curiously comforting. So he's going with it.
He's going with it, yeah. And and the place is growing on him. It's a new experience, kind of.
He can acknowledge it's not real, but still allow himself to enjoy it. Yeah,
well, it's not clear to me anyway that it's not real, but...
Well, it says here this was an illusion, of course. A trick of his racked and smitten mind.
But
this is his thoughts.
These are his thoughts. Yeah, these are his thoughts. Yeah. But then that's him going in the seesaw, back and forth.
Aye.
And then just after that, he has, in the twilight, he sensed his peril sneaking furtively closer to him, though he did not know what it was. So, that hasn't gone away.
It's a sense of foreboding.
Yeah, so, despite all the good stuff, there's so I don't know, and there are all these connections then with the other inverted commas realities.
Yeah.
There's the song that she was singing, the second song, which connects with whatever
Golden Boy
reality. Yeah.
And then the other side, there was the beggar with the ochre robe, who's clearly got a connection the other way. Right.
Yeah. The only of all the various characters described in the first bit who really kind of, connects with him, shows him any kind of sympathy. Even his wife, goodness, when that's described, when she just turns away because she can't bear it, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, that's... I don't know how you deal with that. There's a bit actually mentioning Joan. I had written this down back to Kevin's Watch, chapter 4, when Lena's talking about the Ranahan, the horses. And she says, Thomas Covenant, it is my dream to see these horses. Most of my people are too content, they do not travel. So it just reminded me that Joan herself was a horse lover.
That's right. Because the stables were all empty when he went back.
That's right, yeah.
Right, and so then they enter the Stonedown, which at first appears kind of all random and kind of unorganized, but then he realizes that there is an order.
Yeah, all the buildings face into the centre. So although the buildings themselves may differ in shape and size, they all face the centre. And it says the village has 500 inhabitants. I've just made a note of that because in my mind it was much smaller than that. So this is something I'd always...
In my mind it had been much smaller than 500 people actually.
Yeah, it's interesting that. So that's fairly big for a village made of stone huts.
Yeah, right. All facing each other.
Yeah, so...
all one story as well.
Aye, all one story. So for her father and mother both to have status in that village, that's something amongst 500 inhabitants.
I guess, at this stage I know nothing of the larger land, and I get the sense that it's small, so it's not going to be, I guess, in my head larger than I don't know, Northern Ireland actually. That's kind of probably about the size that I picture it.
See, I've never actually. You could probably go through the book and look at all the the number of leagues that they travel in certain parts of it, and I'm sure people have done that. I've got an atlas. I sent you a picture of the cover of it through the week. This is a third-party production. Somebody's made it, having gone through the books and designed these different maps of parts of the land and stuff.
Yeah, it'll be in the background of the cover image, that map. But I wonder if they've put a scale on it. Remember, I've only read 5 chapters, so this Northern Ireland thing is not something I've thought about before. Actually,
fair enough.
Mentioning it, but I do get the sense that it's not like Australia or Canada size. It's not, because she talks about its boundaries. And she talks about it almost as if you could see them. Okay, you're pretty high up, but nonetheless, So, I mean, from that I got a sense of, modest dimensions.
Yeah, that was actually quite a clever trick on the part of the author to have her describe the land in that part of the book. She talks about the plains and the Serengave and the bits of the land where nothing lives, and the Lords, the Council of the Lords. So, that's you 5 chapters deep. What are you making of it? You enjoying it?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the writing. I find it's nice, and the use of language is nice in a way that I can dig.
Excellent.
The story itself, well, I'm open, and there's been nothing so far that has put me off. So yeah, I'm kind of with it.
Well, I'm thoroughly enjoying it too. As however many times I've read it before, I've never read it this closely or discussed it in this depth, and I'm really enjoying that.
How many times do you think you've read it before?
5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Is what I'm holding in my hand the complete, or is there more to it than this?
That's the first trilogy. So there are 3 books in the first Chronicles, another 3 books in the second Chronicles, and then four books in the last Chronicles.
That's why you said 10, right? So you've read all 10 5 or 6 times?
No, I've read the first and second Chronicles 5 or 6 times. I actually prefer the second Chronicles. Those are my favourites out of the whole series.
Oh, wow.
And the last Chronicles I read fairly recently, and I've only read the first one twice. All the others I've read only once.
I see. So it gets thinner the closer you get to the top, so to speak.
Yeah, so my knowledge wanes as we get further on. And interestingly, I didn't read any of the last Chronicles until they were all published. In fact, until quite a long time after they were all published. Because I know some of my old friends from Presswick, they read whenever they were published. And there was a few years between them, so there was a lot of waiting around, Which for anyone who's used to reading big epic fantasy series, there's some people can put up with that and other people can't. I know a lot of people who won't pick up any fantasy series until they're finished because of people like George R.R. Martin, who wrote A Song of Ice and Fire, which became a Game of Thrones television show. And he hasn't finished them. We've been waiting years for the next in the series to come.
So, the first trilogy came out in 1977.
Yeah, well, the first book of the first trilogy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And the last one?
The last book of the last trilogy, or the last...
Yeah, the last book of the last trilogy.
Oh, it was like 2006 or something. Maybe even after that.
Right, so what's the time span? 23, almost 30 years?
That,
so 3 decades. 3 decades.
40 years, probably. 1890. Yeah, it might even be 2012, actually, the last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's 35, right?
And I'm curious, I'd love to talk to the author and get an idea, a sense of how much he was thinking into the future when he began the series. Did he have in mind only the end of the first trilogy, or did he have in mind more story?
Oh, that way?
Yeah.
Right, I see. Yeah. Quite interesting to see how he planned it out. You have to prepare to some extent for something like this, where you're creating a whole new world in order to have consistency.
Yeah.
I can imagine if I did the, just code and fix approach, like start writing it and build a new world, then I'd forget, what did I call that place?
Yeah, I know.
What kind of properties does this have?
Yeah, this is, I'm also reading an epic fantasy series called The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which has at the moment 4 books of what he says is going to be 10. And he has such a big following online, and he has a lot of continuity readers that he uses for just this kind of thing. So volunteers who will read his books and make sure that there's all the details, that there's no breaks in the continuity.
I see. Yeah.
It's quite interesting that nowadays we can actually hear from authors and follow the process, and it depends how deep you want to go into the fandom, but I mean, that's what the internet's so good for in a lot of ways, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're going deep into a series that's, I feel, quite underlooked, actually, in the fantasy world.
So the author is still around? He's still alive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
He's written other series, and they're very different. Even the writing style is very different. So I think he's kept this style for the Thomas Covenant series. So it's quite dense with a lot of esoteric vocabulary and, strange syntax. And so it's got another series of books called The Gap, which is a sci-fi series, like a traditional space opera. And the language is very different in that.
What's his background? Where's he from? Is he from this side or that side of the Atlantic?
That side.
Right.
He's US based. In fact, the audiobook you have, there's also an interview that the narrator does. Scott Brick interviews the author, but I wouldn't jump into that because it's spoiler city. So. Yeah,
right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, I mean, I like this approach, because then I can just blab and, I'll be excused my ignorance because, how the fuck can I know, what's in the next few chapters because I don't.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the features of the Kingslingers podcast that I've mentioned, where they go through the Stephen King's Dark Tower series, and at the end of each episode, the knowledgeable host asks the unknowledgeable host for his predictions on what he thinks is coming, but I would guess it's
a bit too early for that.
I was going to say it's a bit too soon.
Yeah. But I mean, not bad. I mean, when opportunities present themselves, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I'd enjoy that.
Excellent, good. So you're definitely perceptive. You've pointed out parts that I had underlined and wasn't sure that I was going to pick up on them just because of the knowledge I have. It might seem that I'm pointing things out and making them, highlighting things that might telegraph certain things, or,
Yeah, you've got your own tightrope, huh?
Aye. That's the trickiest part for me in all of this.
Yeah, that's why I enjoy my kind of thing, right? So just read the chapters and that's it. Turn up.
Yeah, it's a good format. So let's look at where we're going to go up to the next time. Just do 6 and 7, do you reckon?
Well, you say.
Let me just flick forward to the end of 7 and see.
Well, we've been yakking about 2 chapters for, an hour or so,
yeah.
I mean, 2's maybe a good chunk. Let's try 2 again.
Okay, yeah, let's try 2 again. Okay, aye, yeah, we definitely have to stop at the end of 7.
Okay, right here then.
Okay.
That is it.
Excellent, right, well, cheers, Barge. Good to chat.
Yep, certainly is. Right here. Catch you next time.
Bye, everybody. Right, this is Future Cams coming in. Just to let you all know that we've set up hosting, we've set up the domain name, everything is ready to go. So if you want to give us feedback, you can head over to theunbelievers.co, We're going to be publishing using that domain name, and we also have an email address for feedback which you can send to theunbelieverspod@gmail.com. So if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. We also have a Patreon, so if you would like to support this podcast with some of your hard-earned cash, that would really help us, because at the moment there's a lot of payments going out, nothing coming in, so you know how it goes, paying for hosting and all that. If you can afford to, and you would like to, we would really appreciate your support if you were able to do that. So head over to the patreon.com/theunbelievers, and you'll be able to donate to us that way. And if we can get enough to boost the postage, the hosting at Podbean to their own Patreon funding program, which I would dearly like to do, but it's like $30 a month, something like that. There's no way I can afford that right now, but it would be really nice if we could have all of that in one place. So, yeah, if you can help us to reach that goal, that would be amazing. But if you can't, that's fine. There is another really good way you can support us. In the lifetime of a podcast, the most important time is the initial 3 to 4 weeks. So if you're able to go and give us a review and a 5-star rating, that would really help to push us up onto some lists, and it would help people to find us. And if anyone were to search for Thomas Covenant in their podcast app of choice, we would come up near the top. So it's really important at the beginning lifespan of a podcast, if it can get as much support as you're able to give us. So head on over to wherever you listen and give us a 5-star rating and a review. That would be absolutely amazing, and we will be forever grateful. So that's us for now. We're going to be publishing on a weekly cadence, recording once a week and publishing probably on a Friday. That's my intention at the moment, to try and catch the weekend traffic. And if you can't listen over the weekend, it's ready for your commute on a Monday morning. So thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for all your support so far, and we appreciate you. Talk to you again next week. Bye. Oh, just a wee add-on. I've set up a read-along using the StoryGraph app, which is a read-along tracking website that we really like here at the Unbelievers, so it looks perfect for our needs. I've set it up as a read-along that you can join. You will need an account at the StoryGraph, I think, to join, but it doesn't cost you anything, so go ahead and create an account if you want to follow along. We can have forums on there where we can chat about every chapter as we go while we're publishing the episodes. It just seems like a really neat feature that we can make use of, and we're supporting a small independent app as well. So come and join us over at the StoryGraph. There'll be a link in the show notes for you to go and follow us. Cheers.